you so much for joining the live stream this evening. It is Wednesday, November 26th, 2025. If you happen to be watching this in the replay, but hopefully we're going to get into a good Bible discussion this evening. I'm going to give a few minutes for some folks to get in here and see where we're going to head with tonight's discussion. Now, just as a reminder, this is a Bible discussion of a different sort, so I'm not religious up in here. We are spiritual, but we are going to look at some things in the scriptures, and I do believe this is Supreme Being. Yay! Welcome. Look, y'all said I had to come back tonight, so I'm back by popular demand. Yep. So we're going to get into some stuff tonight. Hopefully, folks are being, well, I know some folks are still doing the holiday things, so it is what it is. But maybe if they're cooking, they'll still be able to join us. But thank you, Supreme. Appreciate you. Hey, Brittany. Yay. Me too. Like I said, since I agreed to it yesterday, I'm like, yep, let me go ahead on and do what I'm supposed to do. I did I did upload a reading to TikTok, but it is a love reading. So if that ain't your thing, it ain't your thing. Hey, Paul. Welcome. Hey, Snowball. Oh, Lord. I guess his blue eyes and came back with a different thing. Nope. But you can give me $5. You'll find my coffee link on my About page and on the front page of my channel. So if you'd like to donate $5, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Yep. You just listen to the other one? Oh, awesome. Awesome. All right. Appreciate you, Snowball. And yeah, I looked over, I didn't take extensive notes, but I was kind of reading over what I'd like to go over tonight in tonight's Bible study. We're not going to delve around too much in the book of Enki tonight because that primarily is good for the creation story and the flood story. They don't get a lot into a lot of this other stuff. The main thing that I want people to see and understand, or my reason for going back through and doing this Bible study from Genesis all the way through, there's a couple of main things we're looking for. Of course, we'll point out what comes out, when it comes out, as it comes out, but primarily I want people to really see the nature of Yahweh and the nature of those who chose to serve him that basically roped us into this, because hands down, Christians, Jews, and Muslims very much practice the religions they practice based on their reverence for a common ancestor, primarily Abraham in the case of the Muslim Jewish connection because of their lines. uh, after I've to a degree, somewhat. I don't offer services per se at this time. I am a Reiki healer. I'm Reiki certified, but yeah. Um, but I do like distance Reiki as a group practice here. So if that's something that interests you, if you're interested in a more one-on-one type coaching type scenario, you can email me at Modern Mystic Messages and we can set something up if you wish. Laura Vega, ain't nobody talk. Bye. Just go. Bye. Goodbye. We ain't got time for the foolishness today. All right. I'm happy that Yeshua healed you. And he don't think that he don't heal me, but that is not your business to come in here telling people what they need to do. You do what you needed to do and let other people do what they need to do. That really assumptive haughtiness isn't going to get you nearly as far spiritually as you think it will. No, I'm not a magician, no more than any of the rest of us. Now, once you become spiritually balanced and reach a certain point of ascension, people will see you as a magician, as above, so below. And once you balance your energies, you can manifest pretty well. And people think things are magical, but it's not genuinely magic. No. When people say magician on the earth realm, they're thinking about people that have taken a lot of dark shortcuts, and I will never do that. But anyway, what I was saying, the reason I'm going into the Bible discussions at this time is because I want people to genuinely start examining, like seriously take a close look at the nature of Yahweh and the true nature of those who chose to serve us, who roped us into this. Because we do, Christians and Jews and Muslims follow the religions that they do because of their common ancestors. Abraham is the common ancestor between Jews and Muslims because of the lines of Isaac and Ishmael. And then Christians follow Christianity because of Abraham first, and then Moses and Joshua. I don't feel nothing about you, Omar, because I'm not trying to feel nothing about you. Why do you want to keep coming up into a live stream wanting me to read your energy? I told you I'm not opening myself to just reading strange people's energy. You're not asking for a paid service. You're not asking for a tarot reading. I'm in the middle of a Bible study, and you want me to stop my Bible study and just read a stranger's energy that I've never had any kind of conversation with? I'm not doing that. That's parlor trickery. That's not what I'm here for. Hey, cool rider, welcome. No offense, but I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, so I'm a happy day to you, but I'm not going to return the happy Thanksgiving because that's not my bag. But I appreciate you joining me here. You talking about people are intimidated by you? You're 6'2" and have intense eyes and features. What should you do so people feel so relaxed, more relaxed? Get over yourself because they're probably not nearly as intimidated by you as you assume yourself to be. Try smiling. If you got resting bitch face, get over it. But honestly, if you stop thinking so much of yourself that you're so intimidating and start just be open and friendly with people, that usually works wonders. To loot. I have no idea. Yeah, if you know whether you're in, if you think that people are intimidated by you to the point that you got to ask a stranger how to relax more, then your energy most likely is bad. Because as a man thinketh, so he is. Woman as a person, whatever. But the saying is, as a man. I'm not a religious person at all. I was raised Christian, but I repented from that and stepped out of that into spirituality. I'm a follower of Yeshua, but I'm not Christian. Val, thank you, but I'm not your baby. Yeah, yeah. Well, again, you can't say don't worry about what people think about you because it ain't even got nothing to do with what people think about him. It's what he thinks about what people are thinking about him, and or her, whoever Talut is. But if they're asking that question, there's very likely they are giving off some very negative vibes, and they know it. That's why I said what I said. Because you don't have to go around just being just because you choose to. It's a lot of folks that think that that's cool, but if you allow your energy to rise, once you get to where you're consistently holding a vibration of love or above, you will begin to radiate differently. No, we're not playing no trippy red for your dead homie. You go play trippy red for your dead homie. We don't do I'm not doing that here. You're the type that helps old people get onto the bus, help if something wrong, but you feel like people see you differently than what because of your. I'm telling you, that is an inferiority complex on your part, and it will begin to radiate into others. If you see yourself that way, they'll see you that way too. Because at the end of the day, it really don't matter whether you consider your well, yeah, it do matter whether you consider yourself attractive or not. And I'm not talking about being egotistical to the point that you're just non-realistic. Some people really, really hit the lotto on the traditional beauty standard cards, and some people are just plain or average. Some people are what people might consider homely. But here's the thing, Talut. Once upon a time, and I have to give you these personal reference stories because it's the example that came to mind. I had a piano. Well, my mother knew this person that went to our he was within our religious organization, but he lived in another town. But he was a famous pianist, violinist. He had several albums out back in the day, this, that, and the third. He was a concert pianist, and she wanted me to take lessons from him. And so once a month, we would schlep down there like a 2 hour drive to go take piano lessons from this man. And he had a daughter that I thought, for years, I thought she was absolutely by diva. You don't know. I don't dabble in witchcraft, but anyway, whatever you think, whatever. But Tolu, I'm not in no bad mood, Mr. Magoo. You don't know what I need either. But anyway, Tolu, back to what I'm saying. This lady, this daughter of this man, for years, I thought she was one of the most beautiful females that I'd ever seen. It wasn't until about after I had been seeing her about 4 or 5 years, one day I actually got to see her real person. And again, she wasn't ugly, but she wasn't nothing special. She was plain as dirt, to be honest. I mean, but she has such a beautiful, radiant personality that that's what I was seeing. I was seeing her spirit. I wasn't actually seeing her physical appearance. I was seeing her true spirit, and it was beautiful, absolutely radiant. So if you really think, if you have a feel some type of way about the way people are receiving you, work on your energy, allow your energy to rise, and then people will see you. That person that just came here talking about I'm always in a bad mood, I'm not in a bad mood just because I'm like grinning like a simpleton on here. First off, I was a smoker for 30 years. My teeth aren't the whitest. I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of grinning and skinning. And I got dental issues and all that anyway. I smile when I feel like it, when I've said something smile worthy, but I'm not going to do a bunch of fake smiling just to, because people can see through that too. I just believe in being real. So I'm not in a bad mood. I just don't have time for foolishness through the trollery. Hey, Paul, you see, you were thinking about it. Should be called Family Day. Yeah, kind of, sort of, to a degree, but also kind of, sort of, just changing the name of a holiday so you can justify celebrating it to yourself. Is still kind of still embracing the energy of the holiday. I mean, and I get it. And I'm gonna be real with you. I don't formally celebrate Thanksgiving, but if I were in a town near my children, we would probably be cooking that day. We don't go out and buy the Thanksgiving uh, decorations and the this and that and all the rest of that. But if they're all off work and the food is on sale, they'll probably get together, and that'll be about as far as we go on that. So if you want to call that celebrating Thanksgiving, that's fine. But we don't be running around, got the yeah, we don't do all of that. But for the most part, people need to detach from the holidays. So they may do the parallel thing for a while, but eventually they're going to have to come off that fence and just make up their mind to stop aligning themselves with Yahweh's days. And that's not even that's not a religious holiday, but like several have pointed out, it is very much a colonizer's day. So if you really, really have like this world family type situation, I'm here in America. I appreciate having American freedoms to a degree, but I can't sit back here and act like I don't know the wicked stuff that they did to make this country happen. You say you're attractive and confident sister, and you feel no, 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 no. Stop it. I'm gonna tell you right now, Tolu, and you're not gonna like what I'm finna say because I hear so many women say that. We have been told that we pretty princesses all our lives, and a lot of women get it in their head that men are, especially men, but other people or whatever, that they're so attractive that people are intimidated by their looks. No, the hell they ain't. That's you in your ego. I promise you. I promise you it's you and your ego. Unless you look better than Halle Berry and Sofia Vergara and Sophia, somebody else all rolled into one, I promise you people are not intimidated by your looks. Get over yourself. Okay? That part. It doesn't intimidate people. Your nasty attitude that comes along with that, because you're walking around thinking that you're the cat's meow, and if you think people are intimidated by you, and whether you realize it or not, that gives off a funky ass energy. Now you can be offended if you want, but I done seen enough of them type of women in the world that I promise you, they're not intimidated by your looks, baby. They're intimidated by that nasty attitude where you think they're intimidated by your looks. Same thing with women that claim that men are intimidated by them because of their jobs. No, they ain't. They're intimidated by that toxic ass masculinity that they're giving off because they think that their job means something to a man when it don't. Well, I got this degree and I got that job and I drive this car and and people are intimidated by me. No, they ain't. They're intimidated by your nasty attitude. That's what they be intimidated by. And they ain't genuinely intimidated. They're just turned off by it. And you choose to interpret it as being intimidated. Paul Grimmer, I was just waiting for some folks to get in here. We're going to get into Bible study in just a few minutes. We're going to be in the book of Genesis tonight. Imperial Madeline, welcome. Samu Digo, welcome. No, don't put Paul Snowcloud. Don't get put out of here, Supreme. I don't. You might not have understood what he was saying, but he's cool. He's cool with me for real. Please don't put him out. He was giving his opinion and he's allowed to, but yeah, don't put him out. He's all right. Oh, I was interested to hear what Talut had to say. She probably didn't like what I had to say about that, but y'all, again, I've been around some very, very beautiful women on this planet, and I've been around some that thought that they looked a whole heck of a lot better than they actually did. And typically, it's the ones who think they look better than they do that have that idea in their head that people are intimidated by their looks, because they're not. Like I said, Halle Berry got a man. So, you know, and it's not a whole lot of women that are prettier than she is. They're just really not. Anywho, we got some folks up in here. If y'all got Bibles, you might want to grab them. We're going to jump into, and again, Talut, if you're still listening, I do not mean any harm for that. I hope you ain't offended, sister. But that's something that all women who are coming out of toxic masculinity. Supreme don't understand. He's just a little block happy, but that's all. GHMM's sister, wish you radiant health and a speedy recovery. You're disgusting. No, bye. Now that's the kind of crap that need to be blocked right there. Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. We don't have to be real block happy if they're not saying anything racially inappropriate or sexually inappropriate. Then we can just let them stay there. Because if we do too much blocking, it messes with my algorithm. Bad. Please. Yeah. Yeah, but GHMM, he for sure needed to be blocked because that's just ridiculous. I'm so sick. Anyway, I'm not gonna give my energy to that. We're gonna get in here. The first chapter that I wanted to go, because we made our way up to where we were talking about Abraham. Now, when they were Abraham and Sarai, the first time when they went into Egypt, if you remember yesterday, excuse me, Abraham told Sarah to lie and say that she was his sister because she was afraid that or he was afraid that the Pharaoh was going to find her attractive and want to unalive him in order to get to Sarai. So he told her to lie and say that she was his sister because she was younger than him. She wasn't but 10 years younger than him. I don't know why he was so in his head that he thought everybody wanted his woman. She must have been really beautiful though, because it's happened more than once in here. But again, it wouldn't have happened if he had told the truth, is the point. So we're looking at the nature of these people that have chosen to serve Yahweh. Abraham got a real inferiority complex, and he's a coward, and he's a liar, because he's going into these places, setting these people up for the okie doke, to the point, and I'm going to point out the chapters, but it starts to look like he's running a con on them, because he comes into the place, tells them that that's his sister. When the men start wanting to court her and think about marrying her, then Yahweh comes in and throws down plagues and curses on these people. And then, in order to get the curses and all of that lifted, they have to turn around and apologize to Abraham. And then they wind up giving him a bunch of gifts to make up for the fact that they offended him by trying to talk to his wife. But he set them up for the okie doke by lying and saying she was his sister. And he don't do that to Pharaoh. He does it to Abimelech twice. And then turns around, and we see the same thing happening later on. Isaac turns around and attempts to do it to Abimelech years later. And Abimelech then finally got wise to their foolishness and don't allow it the third time. Because he tried to do that with Rebekah. And why these men are so cowardly that they can't claim their wives, I have no idea. They traveling around all over the place with these caravans and lying and saying she ain't my wife, she my sister. But come to find out, Sarah really was his sister, like I think his half sister or something like that. And ew, the Anunnaki might have did that, but humans ain't had no business breeding that close. But Abram went and married his half sister. We're gonna talk about that in one of the scriptures. We'll get to it. And then when he told Isaac told Jacob to go and get, or was it Rebecca? I think. But anyway, he deliberately sent his servant into the land of his people. They were in or no, they were in the land of the Canaanites. But he didn't want to hurt him to marry nobody from out of the Canaanites. He intentionally sent his servant to go back amongst his family people so that he could get his first cousin to marry. Ill, that part. So we're going to start out here in Genesis 17. And I wrote a few things down, so I wanted to see. He makes where he promises the birth. So I want to start here in 17, verse 15 and 16. And I'm reading from the English Standard Version. And God said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she will become nations. Kings of people shall come from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said to himself, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. God said, not no, but Sarah your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his offspring after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him and will make him fruitful and multiply him greatly. He shall father 12 princes, and I will make him into a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this time next year. Now, the one thing, Laverne Morel, hi, welcome. I'm doing well, thank you. I hope you are also. The reason I wanted to start here, because something occurred to me. I saw something that we're going to get to a little bit later. But the wording of this scripture, the beginning part of the scripture, is very important and very telling if you allow it to be. I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall become nations. Kings of people shall come from her. Are y'all not hearing that? Yahweh ain't promising Abraham that he gonna make his name a mighty nation. He said that he's going that the nation is gonna come through Sarai. Why? Well, let's think about it. Abraham been married to this woman for at least 25 years that we know of, and I'm sure they've been out there doing the do, and they have not conceived a child yet. So therefore, it's very likely that either Sarah or Abram is infertile, one of the two. But Yahweh said he gonna take care of it. Now it took him 25 years to get along to keeping his word, and we find out why a little bit later. But hold on. Well, can't go by. We can't pass by the 18th though. Let me see. I read. Yeah, we did 17 through 21. Now Genesis 18. Remember this scripture, y'all, because this is an important chapter. Everywhere we were told in the Bible that the glory of the Lord is so intense that no man can see God's face and yet live. And preachers make us believe that that's because the radiance, the absolute glory is trying to see this being is so immense that our physical bodies just could not bear the energy. However, that ain't what it means, because right here in Genesis chapter 18, Yahweh actually appears to Abraham in the physical form and sit down under the tree and have some barbecue. Hey, Muhammad Ali, welcome from Indonesia. Welcome. So let's read chapter 18. And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre as he sat down at the door of his tent in the heat of the day. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing in front of him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the earth and said, O Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree while I bring a morsel of bread, that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant. So they said, do as you have said. And Abraham went quickly into the tent to Sarah and said, quick, 3 seahs of fine flour, knead it and make cakes. And Abraham ran out to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the young man, who prepared it quickly. Then he took curds of milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree while they ate. So he sat down and had a meal. He sat under the tree and stayed in physical form in plain sight of Abraham, had a conversation, and sat there and chilled with Abraham long enough for Sarah to make bread and cheese curds, and for them to slaughter a calf, bleed it, and prepare it for Yahweh. And they sat down there and ate, and Abraham washed his feet. So the glory of the Lord itself, all by itself, does not destroy humans. That scripture, no man can see God and yet live, is because Enlil made a proclamation that if we were to see any of the Elohim's faces, we were to be put to death, because he wanted to perpetuate that lie. We could see the El Shaddai, the sons of the Elohim. We could see angels, the messengers of the Elohim. But the big dogs, that we were never supposed to see their faces. And if we messed around and saw their faces, we were to be executed immediately. I want to continue on with this a little bit though, because we got to get to the rest of this Sarah story. Then he said to them, or they said to him, where is Sarah your wife? And he said, she is in the tent. The Lord said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife shall have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent door behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. The way of women had ceased to be with Sarah. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, am I worn out and my Lord is old? After I am worn out and my Lord is old, shall I have pleasure? The Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I'm old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. He said, No, but you did laugh. Well, of course she laughed, because he'd been promising her the same lie for 25 years. Why wouldn't she laugh? He told them this tale 24 years or 25 years before it actually happened. They're in the 24th year at this point, after he first told Abraham that he was going to give him a son by Sarah. And he ain't did it yet. And I couldn't figure out why it took so long until I read the Lost Book of Enki and figured it out. Enlil was disgusted by humans. He hated humans. He had to get his mind right to go do the deed, because unlike Enki, he was not a geneticist. He couldn't do no artificial insemination and in vitro fertilization. He actually had to do the deed and impregnate Sarah. If you notice the chapter before, he didn't say he was going to make make Abraham miraculously fertile all of a sudden after 100 years. He said that he was going to give Abram a son by Sarah. He was going to give a son by Sarah, and that the nation would come through her. That's not genuinely Abraham's baby. No more so. Well, no, because Ishmael wasn't either. Because Yahweh was able to tell them with a certainty how he was going to be, who he was going to be, and what their names was going to be, and the whole rest of that. Those were Ishmael and Abraham. Ishmael and Isaac were probably Yahweh's babies, but he had, like I said, he had to get his mind right for that. Take a lot of wine. I know that's right. They had some. Hey, look, he had some elixir for that. That's how he wound up getting exiled the first time. He messed around and got drunk on the Nibiru juice and had forced his way with Sud, and they exiled him. But she just so happened to have forgiven him, and he married him. Appreciate you, Laverne. Love you too. All right, now. Then the men set out from there. They looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to set them on their way. The Lord said, Shall I hide Abraham from what I'm about to do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of earth shall be blessed in him? For I have chosen him, that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised him. But he didn't. Abraham didn't get to see that till long after his death. He got the son, but he didn't get to see his name be a mighty nation. That didn't happen. Again, Yahweh switched out on him and basically let him know he wasn't going to see it in his lifetime. It happened 400 years later, after they had gone through hundreds of years of captivity. But he was on his way to Sodom and Gomorrah. He said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me, and if not, I will know. So he was already on his way to go check out the situation in Sodom and Gomorrah, which they didn't serve him no way. I don't even know why he was minding their business. Maybe he was going to clear out the land for somebody else, but this is part of the situation. D.S. Campbell's, I'm reading the Bible. I'm not taking no bitter envy. Trust me, I do not envy him. The scriptures say in the end in Revelation, he gonna be put down like the dog that he is by Michael and Yeshua. I do not envy him. That part. I'm not twisting the scriptures. I'm reading directly from the Bible. So if you don't like it, be gone. That's all you got to do. You and Digital Vibe, be gone. I don't have to repent from nothing because I'm reading the Bible. If you don't like what it says, take it up with the Bible. I'm reading it straight from the Bible. See what I'm talking about? They so want to believe the lie till even though it's printed in their own book, they can't stand to hear the truth. Yeshua told them that it was worshiping at the synagogue of Satan and that Yahweh is the devil. Why did God make me black? Because he know what he doing, baby. I'd rather be black than blank. That part. All the first humans on this planet were all black, if you didn't know, Canada man. The Caucasian race is the newest race on the planet, and it is a proliferation of recessive traits. Anyway, let's get back to it. So Abraham interceded for Sodom to try to save them. I'm trying to see. Hold on. He was trying to see if he could find 50 righteous people in the city. Would the Lord save it? If he could find 5, would the Lord save it? All the rest of that. And supposedly they couldn't find any righteous people because Yahweh didn't like the fact that they practiced homosexuality in Sodom and Gomorrah. And then, hold on. Oh, this part in 19. He goes, Abraham goes, or is it Lot rather? He goes and offers his daughter. Let's read 19. Like I said, they are at the point that they are trying to determine whether or not Sodom and Gomorrah is going to be destroyed or not. The 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed himself with his face to the earth and said, "My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet." Now, mind you, we're told that we have an idea of what angels are based on religion, but the word angel simply means messenger. So they were also Anunnaki, but they were lower ranking Anunnaki that were messengers of the Elohim. That's what angels are, messengers of the Elohim. But they've appeared in the physical form so that these people could see them. They said, "No, we will spend the night in the town square." But he pressed them strongly, so they turned aside to him and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all of the people to the last man, surrounded the house. And they called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them." Lot went out to the men at the entrance, shut the door after him, and said, "I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Behold, I have 2 daughters who have not known any man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof." What? So just like that account we read later on in Genesis, where the man allowed his concubine or his servant girl or whatever to be given to them, and they violated her all night till she died. Lot, because these are the Elohim's messengers, is going to send his 2 virgin daughters and toss them out to the wolves in the same way and say, "Do with them what you will, just don't touch these men." This is showing you the nature of the man who chose to serve Yahweh. Hey, Foreign Show, and welcome. Welcome, welcome. But they said, "Stand back." And they said, "This fellow came to sojourn, and he has become the judge. Now we will deal worse with you than them." Then they pressed hard against the man Lot and drew near to break the door down. But the men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck with blindness the men who were at the entrance of the house, both small and great, so that they were themselves groping for the door. And that's when the messengers told them, "Get all your stuff together and get ready to get out of here." It's a bend. I have a bendy on my forehead, user who HT3. Go look up what it means and all the rest of that. I'm not a practicing Hindu. It is a decorative bendy, but it is an Indian bendy that I have on my forehead. Mhm. So now they get ready to go out of the city, and I don't have to read all of those verses because they basically just pack up all of their stuff and whatever. Lot, his wife, his daughters, all the rest of them, the oxen, the whatever, they gonna leave town with, and they get ready to leave. Now it says the sun had risen up on the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven, and he overthrew those cities and all the valley and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where Lot had stood before the Lord, and he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the valley, and looked, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like the smoke of a furnace. So it was that when God destroyed the cities of the valley, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out in the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had lived. Oh, I'm sure HR puffing stuff, but we primarily, let me look real quick. I'm not going to start doing a whole bunch of random verses, but let me see what 18, Deuteronomy 21, 18 through 21. Oh, that's just talking about stoning children. Yeah, but that don't have nothing to do with what I'm talking about here today, because they weren't talking about stoning them to death. They were literally, he was going to give his virgin daughters to the men of Sodom and Gomorrah so that they could uh, violate them, all do whatever they wanted to them sexually. Again, we'll get to that point because in the Bible study we're going to get to all of that. But yeah, the Bible advocates stoning children to death, stoning women to death, unbelievers, that you can enslave of other people and do what you want to them. Like I said, a Hebrew male. First, the scripture said a Hebrew male couldn't be enslaved at all by another Hebrew, but later on, they reach a point where you can enslave a Hebrew male, but he only for up to 7 years. Who would want to last a day in Sodom? I'm not a sodomite. So I don't need to worry about lasting a day in Sodom. I'm not judging whether Sodom should have been destroyed or not destroyed. I'm talking about the nature of Yahweh, the way he does not protect and provide for his people and keep his promises, and the nature of the men, the forefathers who brought us and the Jews and the Muslims into worship of Yahweh. Because Jews worship Yahweh because of the tie through Ishmael out of Abraham's lineage. Ishmael is the progenitor of the Islamic nation, and Isaac is the progenitor of the Jewish nation, the Hebrew nation. And both of these people are showing some serious character flaws at this point. Do I condone slavery or stoning people? Hell no, no, Yeshua does not. Absolutely no, he does not. Yahweh does. Yeshua told the people that they were not worshiping the same Elohim that sent him, that they were worshiping their father, the devil. Yeshua does not condone slavery or stoning people to death for petty offenses. No. Sanguine, and you would be too. You'd be a change, whatever you are, if you spent 24 hours in Sodom. They put some better use to your fingers and that mouth. Because guess what? If you're a male, they bend you over before they would me. Sodom was known. Why do you think they called homosexual men sodomites back in the day? I'd have been safe because I know how to cook. I'd have been just fine in Sodom. I might not have liked all the screaming I heard coming from the tent every night when they bent you over, but I'd be just fine. Hey, Niana, welcome. I wouldn't be no change woman because, again, I'm born in the right time period because I'm not buying into none of this mess. I'm just reading it so that people can stop saying I make it up. It's hard to say. Honestly, it depends on you saying how many different gods are there in the context that religion talks about, a bunch of them. In reality, none. Not in the context that religion is talking about. Every single deity that we have ever worshiped on this planet was an Anunnaki being, not a god. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. They came here on spaceships. They're not all invincible, invisible, all powerful sky daddies. They are not. But humans, in their innocence, ignorance, less developed state, if you will, we still have a tendency, everything we don't understand, we deify and or try to kill. That's just human nature. And we were installed, quite literally installed with a worship gene to make us have the desire to want to worship something. And then they came along after knowing that we got this, because they the ones that insisted that we had the worship gene installed in us. And then they turned around and crafted this subterfuge by never being seen by them and always showing up in the fire and the smoke and the flame and talking behind the mountain and the this and the that, all of those ways that they're the subterfuge. They put forth this illusion that they're invisible and all powerful, and they masqueraded as gods. Think about the Wizard of Oz, because that's basically what they did. Everything they did was special effects, flashbang, behind walls, behind curtains, and pillars of smoke and fire. Hey, Glove 3005, welcome. And that's the point. One of the Elohim finally said, enough is a damn enough. Let me tell the truth. Let me set the record straight. And instead of continuing to put forth this, he shed a little bit of light on this by giving a little more of the story in this. Hey, Vlad, either come in here with English or don't come in here, because I know you a troll. So if you coming in here with foreign language stuff, we might remove it, assuming that whatever you're saying is not cool. If you think about it, it's really sick because you worship something that means you love it, you want to cuddle it, whereas you're supposed to fear God. That's ridiculous. Yep, pretty much. Pretty much. Yep, yep, yep. But anyway, let's continue. Because the part that I wanted to get to comes up next. It's not even because in church they stop right there. The lesson supposedly of the story of Lot is don't look back with longing towards the things of the world. I don't have a thought on, I don't even know what that is. So I make a very pointed habit because of what I'm being called to do. People could say I'm wrong for it, whatever. Anything really, really major, I'll see trending, or one of my coworkers, my not coworker, one of my roommate friends, somebody will tell me what's going on in the world, Profna. But for the most part, I make it my business to stay detached from the news and politics of the world. So I have no idea what you're talking about. I would literally have to look it up. So I guess I don't have an opinion on it at all. Okay. Well then I don't need to know. I don't have no opinion on Pazuzu because I don't mess with demons. All the demon protection I need I get from Yeshua and Archangel Michael, Raphael, Metatron, Lord Enki. I don't have to start going down the demon rabbit hole. People that mess around and start playing around with demonology usually wind up under demonic attack, and I don't want that, so I just leave it alone. Okay. All right, but like I was saying, in the story of Lot, they usually don't go no further than the fact that in Lot's wife looked back and she was so wrong for looking back and all the rest of that stuff. Yeah, well, if you praise Pazuzu, then carry your Pazuzu praising that behind somewhere else. That's all. Because we ain't about that here. I don't want to hear no more about it. In any event, Now, Lot went up out of Zoar, and it's interesting because the Zoroastrians didn't fool with Yahweh in this first mess. They were mystics, and they wasn't about none of Yahweh foolishness. That part, Paul Snowcloud. A demon can't protect you from a demon. A demon is going to deliver a fool up to another demon, and that's what they don't understand. That's why I just let it go and let them have all of their demon love and stuff. And these people that clown and talk about how they worship Satan, and I get it. All of them are kind of low key worshiping Satan because they don't know. But those who are so irreverent that they openly pant after the world's misshapen image of what they believe Satan to be, and they start playing with witchcraft and demonology and all the rest of that stuff, they get what they get. And when them demons turn around and suck all the life out of them and have them up there hanging off the ceiling and having nightmares and all the rest of that stuff, because eventually everybody that willfully practices open Satanism, Satan will use you until you're no longer useful, and then Broker Chew, you don't have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm literally reading from the Bible, fool. That's all I've done today. You bopped up in here without a clue. And whoever you are, I've seen that emblem somewhere before. So you don't know what you're talking about. All I've been doing for the last almost hour is reading from and talking about the Bible. So you're right. It is black magic in this book, but that even the idea of repentance is a Christian concept. So I know you play around with the black magic book too. So how you gonna tell me to repent from the book that runs your whole show? Go on about your business now. That's what you need to do. Now, Lot went up out of Zoar and lived in the hills with his two daughters, for he was afraid to live in Zoar. Yeah, he didn't want to deal with no spiritual people. So he went up in the mountain areas. He lived in a cave with his two daughters, and the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to come in to us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drunk, or make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, so that we may preserve offspring from our father. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she arose. The next day the firstborn said to the younger, behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine tonight also. Then you go in and lie with him, that we may preserve offspring from our father. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. The firstborn bore a son, called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger also bore him a son and called his name Benami. He is the father of the Ammonites to this day. What? Fury 201, God can die quite easily. And if you read the Lost Book of Enki, Dumuzi died. Alexander the Great said he had found the tomb of Marduk. They're not actually gods. They just lied and told you was gods. And these simple-minded Nimnols, back then, I can't even say the people that originally started following them were Nimnols, but in this day and time, with all the information we got out here, people that still keep buying into the lie, they ain't got good sense. We'll get there. Bear with me. Look, let me see. There's no need for me to read that. I'll get there. We talking about stuff that's bad enough. I don't need people coming in and keep putting out random verses to hijack stuff. If you really, really want me to discuss something, DM me, leave a comment or whatever, or when we're having an open discussion, we can. But every time I do that, it just keeps continuing on and on. So, Fury, I'm so sorry. Again, why are you going to ask the question? The Bible says God is immortal, then how can he die? Because they lied. That's why. Yahweh do a lot of evil genius monologuing. He also claimed that he can tame Leviathan. That part, Fury 201. Hey Taha, welcome. Yeah, calling yourself a God does not make you an actual God, but humans could believe it because Yahweh said it. I know for a fact the Bible is corrupted because it's not even what we were told it was in the first place. Religion has told us that it is the infallible, incorruptible, all perfect word of one singular Almighty God, and that is not the truth. What it is a collection of multiple accounts, books, 3,000 years of other people's mails, starting with the post Babylonian tales. uh, Again, kinetic for Christ, carry your ass. You don't have to pray for me. Please don't pray for me if you pray into Yahweh Jehovah. I'm over that part. I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm saying. And I do not want, I rebuke your prayers from Yahweh Jehovah because Yeshua said that Yahweh is the devil. And I believe Yeshua before I believe you or Yahweh. So if you got a problem with that, kinetic for Christ, leave the channel. That's all you got to do. You don't know what I did, Lord Snooty. You don't know what all of the presidents is unchristian. Why did you vote for that other monster? The child sniffing racist one that made it his life's work to put black men in prison. Why did you vote for that one? Because that's not Christian either, Lord Snooty. And that braying donkey that he had as his running mate along with him, she ain't Christian either, Lord Snooty. So that part. You can't prove Jack Diddley Fury 201. You can go on about your business too. Islam is not true religion. Any religion that advocates child marriage or child violation can't be the truth. That part. But we're going back to Genesis because there's no need for me to go. This is another random event, and we will eventually get to Numbers, but there's no point for me to go all the way up from there. It's not even they're not imposters, Taha. They're not imposters. They are very unwise men who chose to follow a very wicked Elohim. That part. All of them. So it ain't that Christians are bad or Jews are bad or Muslims are bad. All three of them are what are considered the Abrahamic religions. They all worship Yahweh in one format or another, whether they call him Yahweh, Jehovah, or Allah. And at the end of the day, Yahweh is Lord Enlil, and he is the devil according to Yeshua. And he is the devil. I mean, well, he was the Satan of the Eden. And that's the part people really don't understand. If you get out of the scriptures and go read the ancient text, his title, Satan, doesn't mean what we think it means, what Christianity lied and told us it means. Satan was a title. He was the Satan of the Eden. He was like the governor, the administrator, the CEO, if you will, the director of the Eden, which was the Eden was a whole area. It wasn't just the garden. Eridu was also in the Eden. It was it was the first area that they developed when they got here. I don't call you said, how do I call the Most High? We don't have to. Because here's the thing Yahweh or Enlil, all of them, all of the Anunnaki refer to what we would call the Most High. They call that being either the Father of all beginning, or the creator of all. They don't even know the creator of all's actual name. They just refer to that being, the one who actually put this planet here. They refer to that being as the creator of all or the father of all beginning. They acknowledged that they're not gods, that there is a being that actually created the planet and did the initial bioforming here. They just came here and hybridized a hominid that they already found here. No, that's not what it means, imperiousness. We've been told that. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Just like you was told Elohim means God when it don't. And he might be the father of Pazuzu in the Mesopotamian mythology, because Enlil did have some children. Ninurta was his son, and Marduk was Enki's son, but Marduk was truly evil. He was the one who became Amun Ra. I'm trying to tell you that's not what it initially meant. Christianity lied to us and told us it means something else, imperviousness. But initially, when he first came here, his first title was Lord of the Command. His secondary title was Satan of the Eden. Enki's title was Lord of the Waters. His secondary title was Ea of the Abzu. So Ea was a title, and Satan was a title. Elohim means powerful ones, and El Shaddai means sons of the powerful ones. And Jesus Christ is not a name. Yes, Jesus' name, Yeshua's name, what? Because there was no J in the Hebrew language. J didn't even come about till the Romans got involved, and Greek became a language of the New Testament. Jesus Christ is not a name, and Christ isn't a name. Christos is a designation. It's a spiritual attainment. There was plenty of Christos on the planet. Buddha is a Christos. Lord Maitreya is the Christed Buddha. So Christ is not a name, Walter Jones. Yeah, Elohim, El Shaddai, and then Yahweh told them that his name was El Elyon, which means the destroyer. He told Abraham that he was El Elyon. But Elohim means the powerful ones. El Shaddai means the sons of the powerful ones. Messengers or angels means messenger. Yeah. And Yeshua's name would have been either Esau or Yeshua, maybe Yehoshua, but it would not have been Jesus. Jesus from the Greek means hail Zeus. I'm going to attach, if you get a chance to come back to this replay, this afternoon I was led to a very interesting, it's a year old, and honestly I have never seen this particular interview. It was an interview with Billy Carson and Lori Hardy from a year ago, and it basically, he's saying exactly what I've been saying, but he summed it up in the way that Billy does. But he said the same thing, that humanity has unknowingly been worshiping the devil all this time and didn't know it. And he gets into a lot of facts and figures and all the stuff that he know how to do. But I am going to link that video, put it in the description box, and link it to the comment section on this live stream once it actually uploads. So definitely, if you're listening to this now, tomorrow sometime, whenever this video actually finishes uploading, come back and check that video out. I may actually post it to the community tab as well, because like I said, he ain't really saying nothing no different than what I'm saying, but maybe you can hear it from somebody else. I don't know. But if you don't believe me, believe Billy. He got 2 or 3 channels with like over a million subscribers. That man has been traveling around the world, going to the home of Yeshua, going through the pyramids, reading all of these ancient texts and scripts. He's been doing that for decades. He kind of sort of know what he talking about. And him and Paul Wallace then started putting their heads together. And if Paul endorses him, he all right by me. Because Paul spent 30 years studying hermeneutics and teaching seminary type theosophy and theology and all the rest of that. He know what he talking about. So if they're agreeing with this too, I believe that. Yeah, that part. But anyway, with that Lot's daughter, with the thing with Lot's daughters, I had to look at that. Like the pastors and the preachers and the pastors all get in the story of Lot, and they don't know go no further than talking about how you basically justifying the fact that Lot's wife was turned into a pillar of salt. Well, she shouldn't have looked back then. But then they forget they completely forget these next verses where these two little wicked wenches, and they can say Lot didn't know what was going on. I'm calling BS on that. How much wine do you have to drink that you so drunk that you don't know that 2 days in a row your daughters came in and mounted you to the point that in your drunken state you completed the act and actually released your seed and impregnated your own daughters. And they talking about it wasn't nobody in the land. It wasn't nobody in the land because them wicked lazy heifers wouldn't go look for nobody in the land. They didn't have to sleep with their father. But right here in the scriptures, they turned around and justified that. No, he wasn't. They claimed that he was so drunk he didn't know what he was doing. They went into him. He wasn't on them. They did that. But they turned around and tried to give Lot the excuse of saying that he was drinking and he didn't know when they came in and he didn't know when they left. It's very hard to get that drunk on just wine. You could drink a whole bottle of wine and not be that drunk that you wouldn't know you sleeping with your own daughter. Come on now. You pass out first. And if you that passed out, I don't think you're gonna be completing it all the way to fruition to impregnate two girls back to back. And if you did realize you got that drunk one night, why you turn around and let it happen again the following night? So not only is Abraham dishonest or Lot, I mean, Abraham is a liar and a coward. Lot is a drunkard and another coward. These are the natures of the men who chose to serve Yahweh, is my point. And then he still turned around later on. We'll get to it, I think. He turns around later on and sends his servant to go in and secure Isaac's first cousin for him in marriage. Ew. Like I said, the Anunnaki could do that kind of sort of if they want to because they're not human. But humans ain't had no business breeding that close. And with all of them people around them, there was no excuse for that. But this is the nature of these people. Now we're going to continue on with the story of Abraham and Abimelech. From there, Abraham journeyed toward the territory of the Negeb and lived between Kadesh and Shur, and he sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, she is my sister. So he doing this my sister crap again. And Abimelech of Gerar sent and took Sarah, but God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, behold, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. Now Abimelech had not approached her, so he said, Lord, will you kill an innocent people? Did he not himself say to me, she is my sister? And she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hand, I have done this. Then God said to him in the dream, yes, I know that you have done this in the integrity of your heart, and it was I who kept you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now then, return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, so that he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not return her, know that you shall surely die, and all who are yours. Bruce boy, Paul Wallace is not a clown, and carry your disrespectful self on. The man, I know he done made more money than you. He done wrote about 6 books on the subject. He is a world respected expert in the field of hermeneutics and paleo contact, and was an archbishop in the church, in the Anglican church in Australia for 33 years. So you sound like a fool. Bye, Paul Bruce boy. Say something else disrespectful. Why do I think he's more? Why do I think that he's more credible than eyewitness accounts? Ain't no eyewitness accounts of biblical events happening right now, clown. This stuff is stuff that happened 10,000 years ago. There are no eyewitness accounts left. These are not eyewitness accounts. These are stories that were retold and retold and retold. Just like in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the Christianity will have you believe they're eyewitness accounts, but they're not eyewitness accounts. And the reason we know Matthew, Mark, and Luke are not eyewitness accounts because they all three of them give an almost word for word accounting of the Last Supper, even though those books were written 30, 50, and 80 years after Yeshua's execution. David, you on your way up out of here. No, he's not a scammer. He's a world respected expert in the field of theology, theosophy, theogony, and hermeneutics. He is a retired archbishop who left Christianity after learning the truth and turned around and wrote about 5 or 6 books talking about the same kind of stuff I'm talking about here, the deception of Christianity and paleo contact as it's outlined in the scriptures. That part. But you, who probably work down at the local gas station, gonna got all the knowledge and gonna declare that man who is actually, you're spitting on his life's work and talking about he a scammer, and you ain't even examined his work. You don't even know how to spell his last name correctly, but you gonna call somebody a scammer. How dare you? He was in the Anglican church, not the Episcopalian church. But yeah, like I said, he was an archdeacon, right up under a bishop, and he went through the ranks. He, like I said, when he left there, he had been in the church for 33 years and had held the rank of archbishop for a number of years. Don't tell me what to be. You coming in here all aggressive and disrespectful, then guess what? Sometimes you got to talk to people in the language they can understand. Yeshua wasn't mild when he braided a whip and whipped their behinds up out the temple. That part. He's not, he is world respected. Again, you don't, just because you don't know who he is, doesn't, anybody that travels around the world and shows up on multiple podcasts and got 5 or 6 best-selling titles on the same subject and got YouTube channels with over 1 million followers and all the rest of that, I would think that that is world respected. And again, he also teams up with Mauro Bellino. You may not know nothing about him either. He's an Italian translator that worked on several manuscripts. He was an official translator of some of these Hebrew scriptures. And again, he's heavily involved in hermeneutics as well. I'm working towards becoming Christos, David. I don't know if I'm there yet. Uh, Maybe on the other side of this fast, I might start displaying some more Christos type uh, visible characteristics, but I have been invited on the path of the initiate and the way of the Christ. No, my favorite color is purple. Exactly. Ain't nobody heard of David at all. Nobody heard of David, but you gonna judge Paul Wallace that he's a heretic. And again, you ain't even bothered to go check out his work. You ain't heard nothing he had to say, but that's a fool to judge a matter before even hearing it. The Bible say that. The Bible literally says it's a fool that judges a matter before hearing it. And you went and declared Paul Wallace a scammer and a heretic before you ever heard one word that came out of his mouth or one word that he had to write in a book. So you'll go check yourself, David. That part. And guess what? Yeshua invited all of us to become Christ. So you're going to talk about I'm not Christ? We're all being invited to. He said, greater things have I done, will ye do? Did I not tell ye are gods? No, you ain't no. It's not grippy. You just on your way out because that level of disrespect. I really it ain't even for me. I don't like it for those people. They literally have dedicated their lives to doing this work so that people can awaken and come up out of this deception. Okay, now you can take your bricked up self on out your ass. Bye. Go ahead on about your business. How disrespectful. That lets you know you really a fool. You sit here and let a 60, well, I ain't 60 yet, but an almost 60-year-old woman get you bricked up by anything. Idiot. Anywho, let's get on back to where we was at because I ain't got time for the foolishness. So we with for the second time now, Abraham done come up on this tell him you're my sister thing. He's approaching Abimelech with it. And for the second time, Yahweh, instead of calling Abraham down and telling him, man, cut that out. I got you. Why are you keep going in here lying to these people? He gonna tell Abimelech, you a dead man because you messing with another man's wife. Even though Abimelech ain't even, like I said, Abraham done lied to him and told him, and Sarah lied and backed him up. No, no, that's my brother. No, no, that's my sister. So when he turn around and take this woman, then Yahweh gonna turn around and bring down scourges and curses, not only on Abimelech, but all who belong to him over Abraham nonsense. Because he dared to touch another man's wife, but it was all right when Lot slept with both of his daughters. What kind of foolishness, y'all? Now let's be real. And this is in within one chapter of the Bible or two chapters, because in the previous chapter, Lot's daughters slept with their daddy and got pregnant by him. In the very next chapter, Abraham is back to the shell game con that he's doing because every time he does this, the men that he do it to feel so bad that they lace him up full of gifts and stuff. Listen, so Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told them all these things, and the men were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, what have you done to us, and how have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me things that ought not be done. And Abimelech said to Abraham, that what did you see that you did this thing? Abraham said, I did it because I thought there is no fear of God at all in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. This the lie he always tell. Besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, though not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. So he married to his damn half sister. Come on now. But this is who we chose to follow into our worship. Right down the rabbit hole to truthfully, thank goodness there's no such thing as a burning hell, because we would all be following this to our eternal damnation, following behind these nasty behind people. These are the forefathers. These right here are the reason why Christians, Jews, and Muslims worship Yahweh. These are the nature of these people. That's why I wanted to read these things. We're going to get into the nature of Yahweh. It comes out as the story comes out too. But you also have to look at the dealings and the choices and the thought process of the ancestors that led you into this Yahweh worship. The crap that they found it cool, the stuff that Yahweh did, because they were shiesty like that too. They didn't have no problem with Yahweh killing people on their behalf after they done sat up and set them up in the middle of a lie. They don't have no problem with doing dishonest, dirty dealings in business with people and setting them up and defrauding them and all the rest of that stuff. They don't have no problem with incest. They don't have no problem with SA. They don't have no problem with killing their brothers and sisters. None of that. All of the things that I just said, these early progenitors of the nation of Israel was about they was about it on every single bit of that. But we think that we're supposed to continue following the God that they follow. Why would you? If the God that they followed was down with the stuff that they do, is it no wonder that we living in the hell and confusion we in now? Because those men was all considered righteous men, but look at the shit that they do. Something to think about, ain't it? So let me see. Besides, she indeed is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God caused me to wander from my father's house, I said to her, this is the kindness you must do to me at every place which we come. Say of me, he is my brother. Then Abimelech took sheep and oxen and male servants and female servants and gave them to Abraham and returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, behold, my land is before you, dwell where it pleases you. To Sarah he said, behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It is a sign of your innocence in the eyes of all who are with you, and before everyone you are vindicated. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and also healed his wife and female slaves so that they bore children. For the Lord had closed all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abram's wife. So he had already thrown down the curse and closed all of these people's wombs, that made the father, Abimelech, the ruler, made him probably impotent or whatever, because they knew something immediately done happened, even though he hadn't even slept with Sarah, because he was planning to take her. Instead of Yahweh setting the record straight or Abraham setting the record straight, they turned around and put curses on this man's house and all his children and his wives and everything else. And then to get out of it, he gave Abraham 1,000 pieces of silver and servant girls and servant men and head of oxen and all the rest of that. So this now is this is a con that Abraham is running. Everywhere he goes, as he roams around the area, he's running this con on these people, and Yahweh is backing him up in it. Instead of telling him to stop telling people that's your sister, he throw down curses on them until they feel so bad about it that they have to give Abraham a bunch of stuff. Instead of Yahweh just providing for him, he done turned this man into a confidence man. Well, I don't know about 12 wives. I was aware of 4, but the only reason we know who Muhammad is, peace be upon him, is primarily because of Hadijah. She was the one that had the money. She was filthy, filthy, filthy rich. And she loved to hustle Muhammad. Peace be upon him. I think Hadijah was about 15 years older than Muhammad. No, it's a bindi. It's not a scar. It's just kind of a lavender, pinkish lavender colored bindi, so it doesn't show up as well in this light. Good evening, though. Good evening, Ed. Good evening, Three Mile Boo, Mudwa, and Be Wizzy. Welcome. No, I don't think he was slick. I think he was a shiesty behind, arrogant ass con man and a coward and a liar. Because this is the second time he done pulled this con. Tell him you my sister. Everywhere he told Abimelech, he done told Sarah everywhere they go. He was a nomad. And everywhere he went after he left the land of Ur, they did this thing. Tell him you're my sister. Then Yahweh come in and throw down physical curses, scourges on these people, and they wondering why they sick and all the rest of that, and they find out that it's because they dared to lust after another man's wife. So she didn't actually sleep with Abimelech, but because they had did that in order to make recompense, because they've angered the God and they done this great sin against this man, then now they done laced him up with oxen and cattle and servant girls and servant men and 1,000 pieces of silver. So There's no reason for him not to keep doing this little dirty con. Yeah, that's disgusting, B Wizzy. And this is again more of the nature of what I'm talking about. These nasty ass men thought that it was cool to have a 9-year-old wife, and y'all still turn around and want to call him a prophet and a holy man of God. I'm calling bullshit. Any grown man that could look at a 9-year-old child and even consider marriage is something seriously wrong with that person. Seriously wrong. Hey, Kai Atkins, or Kay Atkins, I'm sorry. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, it has been a while. Welcome. No, Ed, I don't do the colonizer stuff. I let go of all of the holidays a long time ago. That's what I was just talking about, Lotus, not Mind Flow. People are talking about Muhammad was this and Muhammad was that. Again, this is more of the nature of the people that we followed down this hellhole called Yahweh worship. Again, I just said peace be upon him because I didn't know he one of the wives. I only heard about the 4 adult wives. I didn't know about the 9-year-old, and I only say it so as to not be more offensive than I have to be to the Muslims that I'm talking to, because I really don't give a rat's ass about Muhammad, to be honest with you. But they expect you to say that, so yeah, no. Now that I know that, I won't be saying it no more because I honestly didn't know. Every time I've ever done anything and looked again, I didn't delve deeply into Islam, but I knew about the 4 adult wives. I had no idea about Aisha, but I will look that up and see. Let me see. Uh, but I know even at that, Islam would not have become a marriage. That's disgusting. That's even worse. Um, Islam wouldn't have become a thing if it hadn't been for Hadija though, because she was the one that had the money for real. She was the one. She was the reason he could go and roam around off in the caves for 3 or 4 months at a time without working no daggone where, because she let him do whatever she wanted to. Unfortunately, Lotus Mind Flow, no, they wouldn't, because these nasty efforts over in certain parts of the world that are still practicing Islam to this day, they still marrying 6, 8, 9, and 10-year-old little girls. Turn on the TV and see if it ain't. We talked about that in the live stream last night. How in Somalia, grown men in the hundreds of thousands turned out in the street to protest, and they was literally crying real tears and everything because Somalia was going to outlaw child marriage and raise the marriageable age to 18. And they quite literally tore the streets up protesting. And they raised so much hell till the Somali government backed down and repealed that law in 24 hours after they had placed it into law. It happens in all Muslim countries, basically. It might not happen openly in places like the UK and throughout Europe because they are immigrants into a non-Muslim country. But if you travel into actual Muslim countries, they still do. I date. Hey, Rainy Supreme. Good evening to you. I briefly dated a guy. Well, I ain't gonna say briefly because it was like a long distance thing, but we never actually physically. We didn't get to the point that we were gonna get together because I thought he was forward thinking and all the rest of that. Until I found out he was from the Gambia, and we got to talking a little bit further. And at first, I thought he was real progressive, because again, at that point, this was a while back. I didn't know as much about Islam as I do now, and I thought, well, it's not for me, but it'll be okay. And even as this man, even in the Gambia, I was like, please tell me you don't support female circumcision. He come, oh, we just take a little, my behind. Nope, we're done. Nope, nope, nope. Mm-mm. You say it's problematic in the UK too, yeah. But I'm saying it's not openly done there because of the laws in the UK. But it's yeah, because here's the thing: Muslims feel like their religious law is above any other civil law, so they may not openly do it because they know they're going to jail, but they will still do it behind closed doors, and it is a problem for any young female that's born into those religions. Yeah. But let's get back to where we was at. We went through. We was talking about Abraham, Abimelech. Then Isaac was born. Oh, here we go with the birth of Isaac. Now we read over here. I mean, I got to get it wording right because again, I want you to see. Yeah, Sad Man Show, but it's a African Muslim tradition. It is not all African women don't do that. That's in Muslim countries. And even though the countries that they still do it in has outlawed it, the country themselves may have outlawed it, they still turn around and do it anyway. Same, Brittany. Again, once I actually started reading some of these other texts, and I realized that the main reason Christianity done tried to cross their eyes and justify everything that Yahweh does. So they tried to come up with this whole you had a greater threat risk of penile cancer and all of this other stuff as to reasons why men need to be circumcised in the US, but men aren't circumcised out of hand all over the world. That's a US thing because that's just something that people want to do for aesthetics. If you teach a young boy how to clean himself properly, there's no health risks there. The reason people got in the Jews and all of them started circumcising is because Yahweh hates humans so bad he couldn't bear to even see or understand that the male species that were going to be around him were going to look different. Anunnaki men do not have a foreskin. The way that they said that they could tell us apart was by the foreskin. And so Yahweh declared that by God, you're going to be with me, you're going to remove the foreskin. Anybody that's going to serve me must remove the foreskin. Yeah. You really got into the science of it when you got pregnant with a boy. Everything we were told was a lie. Yeah. And here's the thing, Brittany, my twins were so preemie, and the doctor that was gonna do at the time, I think I had AvMed, whatever it was. They weren't doing a regular cut. They were doing the cap thing where it falls off. That's the way they were doing it, and they were so small. When they were first born, their health was too delicate. By the time they got ready to be discharged from the hospital, the doctor that would have done it was out or whatever, so they didn't get circumcised when they were younger. Now they wound up, something happened to my son. I can't remember what it was. Basically an issue where I think like the foreskin was too tight or something. It was causing a problem with him, so he wound up having to be circumcised at I think he was around 11 or 12 when he had it done, and it was a little bit harder, but yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Okay. We're gonna continue. Oh, where I was going back to when Yahweh promised Abraham a son in his old age through Sarah, he said, "As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah will be her name. I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall become nations. Kings of peoples shall come from her." Now we get to 21. This is interesting. Hold on to your hats, y'all. The Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did to Sarah as he had promised. I told you that's why it took so long for Sarah to get pregnant by give Abraham that child in the old age. So he had to Yahweh had to do the deed himself, because Yahweh wasn't a geneticist. He couldn't take him into the lab. He had to actually show up, get his big boy pants on, like I said, a lot of wine, like like Lotus Mindflow said, a lot of wine, get himself together and actually do the deed to impregnate Sarah. So Isaac was most likely Yahweh's boy too. Yeah, that's disgusting. That is so disgusting. Y'all, I'm so sorry. I can't. I like to read through the comments so that anybody watching the replay will know what we're talking about, but I can't even repeat that because, well, you said it's called Mitzitza Bipa. So if anybody is watching it, you can look that up later. But that is the most horrifying thing I have ever heard yet about any religion. To do a circumcision and then turn around and suck the blood up with your mouth. And then, like you say, give these poor babies your STDs because you've been out there doing God only knows what with that mouth and everything else. And now these poor little innocent babies, I would go to prison if a grown man put his mouth on my baby's private parts. I'm going to prison, not jail. Forget jail. I don't even need no trial, your honor, because I'm telling you I did it. What? Ugh. It don't matter whether they a doctor or not. It's a grown ass man putting his mouth on a child's private parts. It's disgusting. It's wicked. It's evil. And the fact that these people try to justify it in the name of religion, the religion is wicked and evil. And the fact that they can't see any better than that, they've allowed themselves to get so dumbed down in their religiosity that they will accept all kinds of immorality and wickedness. And you wonder why Revelations say that the blood will run however many stadias long and as high as a horse's bridle, because they will be destroyed for their wickedness. Yahweh said he was rounding them up like the sands of the sea, Gog and Magog from the four corners of the earth. And from what you just described to me, if Muslims and Jews do that, now I see why the blood is going to run that high. That's disgusting. There's no excuse for that at all, at all. I don't care who's doing it, whether you call it a doctor, a witch doctor, the darn medical fairy, it don't matter. There is no procedure. Like I said, I don't know what the Quran outlined for y'all, but I know damn well in the Bible it don't talk about actual. Who the hell decided that? It's enough that you cut him at the eighth day, but who the hell? And I mean that, you talking about don't be aggressive? No, y'all just blew my mind with that one. Who would decide that after you cut a young boy's penis, you're supposed to suck the blood up with your dirty behind mouth? You're performing an act of fellatio on a newborn. Oh my God. And then they get mad talking about I'm supposed to be more respectful. The hell with this nasty ass God and the people that choose to serve him. I'm sorry, no, because I love children too much to consider that. Like I said, I'm so grateful I didn't never have to witness no mess like that. Because Jew or no Jew, Muslim or no Muslim, I'd be under the jail or in front of the firing squad. Ain't no way in hell that I could watch nobody do that to my male babies and be all right with it. And damn sure ain't nobody finna be slicing and dicing on my baby girl because some man is in some sick pedagogic, whatever. I don't even. There's no justification for female mutilation, but they do it in the name of religion. And again, that's just a misogynistic man thing. They so scared that she's gonna cheat till they turn around and make sex painful for her for the rest of her days by mutilating her beyond belief. But call it, oh, it's a good, nice religion. It's so mild and kind. The devil is a lie. Mm-mm, and they are too. Ugh. Hey, Reigning Supreme, I'm sorry, y'all. And hey, Jilly, I am so sorry. That one shook me, y'all. I'm so sorry. I gotta googa mooga. I'm shook. I am truly shook, and it take a lot to get me like truly shocked. But I ain't never heard telling no foolishness like that. Wow, 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 wow. They better be glad ain't no burning hell. They better be glad, cause that's just disgusting. Right, and I understand again, Yeshua was not a Yahweh worshiping Jew, but he was an Edomite or he was a Nazarite. So under the Jewish law, they had to be circumcised or they would be considered unclean and could not be around other Israelite men. So he was circumcised on the eighth day. That is supposedly according, like I said, Christians try to turn around and justify doing that by saying that that's when a baby's immune system is strongest on the eighth day. Whatever the case may be, again, I don't know how or when they started doing the what is that, the metzitza, whatever metzitza. No, gross. Hey, baby Billy, welcome. Yeah, no, there's no Eastern. None of the Eastern. They're not even religions. The Inkiite philosophies do not promote that kind of stuff. They just really don't. You don't have to mutilate your male children or your female children to practice any, because they're truthfully not religions. Buddhism has been kind of morphed into an almost religion, but it's genuinely not a religion. It's a philosophy, a way of being. Right? You again, Paul. Like I say, I know when I watch this back, I'm gonna cringe because I didn't mean to lose it that much. But I ain't never been so horrified by hearing nothing online in my entire life. Said most Christians that are circumcised will be African Christians, but that's due to cultural practice. No, in the U.S., I'm telling you, they've steered away from it a little while. In the past like 10, 15 years or so, be wizzy. But in the U.S., during the time period in which I grew up, in which I was having my children, circumcision was pushed really hard here, almost as a standard practice. Like I say, the only reason my sons were not circumcised at birth is because they was 2 months preemie, and the method that the hospital was using, they didn't have a snap ring that was small enough for their gestational size. And then by the time they had other health issues by being 2 months preemie, but by the time they got ready to be discharged, the doctor that would normally have done it wasn't there. So I was just like, cool, don't worry about it, and went on about my business. And then later on, they wound up getting circumcised for other reasons. But they never had problems with infections and stuff because I taught my children how to retract their foreskin and clean under it. Ain't nobody trying to be having no stinky boys around here, no. Oh yeah, mass is a spell for real. They got all kind of, yeah, it's got all kind of spell work and stuff going on. All it really does, Brittany, is desensitize men, truthfully. And by the time, yeah, they claim it's supposed to help you keep it clean, keep down the risk of cancer, all the rest of that stuff. But a circumcised male can be nasty too if he just don't wash his ass. You know what I mean? It's really not. It's not any different. But it does desensitize them because you took the protective covering off and now you ride it roughing it around in jeans and boxers and everything else. And yeah. Exactly, Brittany. If you can keep a girl clean, you can keep. Although I ain't gonna lie, when they were little, I had a couple of really bad blowouts that had me questioning life. I don't know how in the world, little boy. Oh my God, all up in the little nooks and crannies. Oh my goodness. Oh no, 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 no. Little boy blowouts are horrific. Anyway, enough of the circumcision thing. But yeah, y'all, I found that super interesting when it talked about, because Sarah was laughing. Yahweh done promised her this baby for the last 25 years and ain't give it to her. And he turned around and told Abraham, I know, I said I was going to do it. But when I come this time next year, when I come back through here, I'm gonna go on to give her this baby. And then it said he visited Sarah as he had said, and then he did to Sarah as he had promised. So yeah, it's a real good chance that Isaac was an Anunnaki hybrid as well. But again, Yeshua, I mean Yahweh did not make a habit out of doing that. Okay, and you call yourself calling me Whoopi Goldberg for what? I wish I had her money. I don't wish I had her nasty attitude, but I wouldn't mind having her money. Here's the thing, Amaru. I don't know why you call yourself saying that, because I'm perfectly happy with the way I look. That part, and my dude is happy with the way I look too. So, yeah, yeah. Like I said, I don't work. I don't like her attitude worth a damn. You said F her. Yeah. Yeah, every time I see them, every time she opened her mouth on the View, I wonder how in the hell that show stayed on so long, because they spew lies and liberal leftist nonsense, and I can't stomach it. Hey, Nicholas Epistrophus, welcome, and welcome to you too, Amaru. Let's get back to it. What else did I write down here? We're up to 21. Um, I was trying to see where they went back. Okay, so Hagar and Ishmael had issues. I was trying to see this third go around. When we get to the sacrifice of Isaac in 22, and this is on the nature of Yahweh now. This is no, I don't need to research the Orthodox Church, because all Christianity sprung from a lie. All of it. Because the premise of Christianity is that Yeshua is the son of Yahweh and was here as a propitiatory sacrifice to buy back the sinful nature of humans through blood sacrifice. That is a satanic principle from the beginning. And Yeshua was not telling nobody to go continue worshiping Yahweh. He was telling the Jews to stop worshiping Yahweh, that Yahweh is the devil. So all branches of Christianity are a lie. Don't matter about the most ancient practices if they all spring from a lie, B Wizzy. That's my point. Doesn't matter. Coptic, Ethiopian, Orthodox, all of them. They all use this book and tell a lie that it's the infallible word of God, whichever version of it that they use, and all of them promote Yahweh worship, Jehovah. And Yahweh is the devil according to Yeshua. So it don't matter how old they are. You said what now? The church of Jesus Christ was established. But again, I understand what you're saying, but that's what Christians try to use to justify what they've done, Nicholas Epistrophus. But you have to go back and look at the New Testament, the letters to the Romans, then the Galatians, the congregation in Galatia, Ephesus, Philia, Philippi, Thessalonica, all of those books of the New Testament were basically letters to the remnants of Yeshua believers that were left after his execution. And Paul came in and said, I don't care what you heard. Yahweh told y'all this, or Yeshua said this, but I say this. He starts out in the New Testament based on a lie, talking about how he had this spiritual experience on the road to Damascus and how Yeshua appointed him an apostle after the fact. I think that's either Acts or Romans that he tells that tale. And that book was written like 30 or 40 years after Yeshua's execution. But Paul is on that trust me, dude. Like literally, if I sit here and tell you right now that I had a spiritual experience and Yeshua said that I'm the new head of the church, are you going to automatically believe me? So why do people choose to believe Paul? I tell you, I'm clairaudiently linked with Yeshua, and he's telling me to tell you these things, and nobody wants to believe me. But because Paul said it to people back then and wrote it in a book somewhere, and the church decided to bind it up and declare it holy, 6 billion or 2 billion people on this planet follow it. But he never laid eyes on Yeshua. That's the part Christians don't understand. You found what, sad man, shadow, Mick, Islam, whatever? No, he don't call himself Yahweh. And if you see him call himself Yahweh somewhere in the scripture, there's got to be a mistranslation. I have not yet seen a scripture where he calls himself Yahweh, because that wasn't his name. Either you can't read or it's a mistranslation somewhere. It's because he lived in the same time and place as Christ, but I don't. No, he didn't live in the same time or place. Paul was a persecutor of the Jews according to this book. He was a persecutor of the Jews, but when it was time for them to create this new religion called Christianity, where they remixed everything and pushed Yahweh into the world as Jehovah, because that's all it is. They took all of these ancient texts, given the exploits of Yahweh with all of the blood, guts, gore, killing, slavery, SA, and everything, and then attached it through the vehicle of the so-called Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and used Yeshua as a bridge. They used the execution of Yeshua as a bridge to bring the little bitty pocket of Yahweh worshiping Jews. They wanted to branch out and push Yahweh out into the world, and they used the so-called Gospels as the bridge to bring people into the New Testament, which is 90% Paul's sayings, or at least 70 or 80% of the New Testament was written by this Paul person. And they remixed Yahweh into Jehovah. The reason I'm not missing one gospel, John was actually most likely written by John. That's why I'm not missing it, RQB. I do actually give more credence to the Gospel of John than I do the other three. John was Yeshua's cousin. But even after that, wait a minute, hold on. I do know what the Bible says, Nicholas Epistrophus. You can go on about your business. If you don't like what I'm saying, be gone with you. That's all. Because I'm not going to change what I'm teaching. And I'm not going to change my mind just because somebody that I have no idea bebopped up in the live stream and start spewing a bunch of stuff. No, he wrote way more than 23%, 23.48%, whatever. Go ahead on. And you don't know Hebrew either. And I have read the Bible. I was taught to read from the Bible by the age of 3 with the assistance of a belt by some real serious Bible thumping Christians in the southeastern United States in the Bible Belt. Nicholas Epistrophes. I'm 57 years old, so I've been reading the Bible for over 50 years. That part. They know let's not ban each other. It's not healthy debate. It's distraction and it's not healthy and it won't be tolerated much longer. That part. He was before Abraham. I never doubted what Yahweh means, Nicholas. But you don't know before Abraham was and before Yahweh was, he was a whole bunch of other things before he got to be Yahweh. That's the part you don't understand. That's just a name like any other name. He's also been called Baal. He's been called Beelzebub. He's been called Yaldabaoth. He's been called Dionysus, Yao, Zeus, Aeonus, Odin, Set. He's been called a whole lot of different names. All right, now you ain't gonna sit here and call me a liar. That's what you ain't finna do. I'm not from a I was raised Jehovah's Witness and they read the Bible intensely. And then I was so sincere that when I got grown and thought, well, maybe it's just the witnesses that was wrong. So I left them and went and studied with the Baptists and got baptized with them too. So I've been baptized under two Christian faiths and still had to leave it. Oh, we talked about Revelation 22:13 before, because that's the one place where he said, yes, he's not all other gods. That was his name through various pantheons. He'd been here since the very beginning. If you had been in here since the very beginning, RQB, you would understand in the Anunnaki text, those are the oldest texts that they've been able to find on this planet anywhere. And in their stories, they tell you of when they came to Earth from Nibiru, why they came to Earth from Nibiru, and what they did when they got here. And when he first set foot on this planet, his name was Enlil, but that was 400,000 years ago. So over time, he's worn a lot of different names through a lot of different pantheons. But it just so happens that we done got so sporty in our remixing of actual history that between politics and religion, the folks that be in this day and age and told us that everything that happened back there is mythology and we're to ignore it, that the only thing we need to know is this right here. And this book didn't even come into existence until 500 years ago. So they willing to completely disavow 400,000 years of writing and history and only look at the remix. That's it. Well, carry your behind. You don't have to keep coming in my live stream, RQB. I'm not here trying to proselytize anybody who doesn't want to hear it. I'm trying to teach people who do want to learn, who are sick and tired of being lied to by the church. You'll trust 2,000 years of church history over me, but you won't believe 50,000 years plus of world history over the newcomer religion on the planet, because the Abrahamic religions are the newcomers. Judaism is 2,500 years old, Christianity is 2,000 years old or 1,700 years old, and Islam is 14 or 1,500 years old. So you'll believe them, but you ignore all the other ancient documents that came before then. So that's on you. And if that's the way you feel, stop showing up on my live stream. That's all. Because I'm not going to change what I believe in. Because again, Yeshua actually led me to this and to look at it and consider that. And he said in the Gospel of Judah, he said that the people that his disciples even missed the entire point of his message. Go read the apocryphal texts. They took those out because they tell too much of the truth. Hey, Deborah Montgomery, welcome. If you think that's base, then you going about your business. You talking about Muslims are confused. They believe Yeshua is a prophet, but he's my Messiah. No, because again, the idea of a Messiah, that's a Jewish thing that they came up with, but then they turned around. They knew he, or they felt he was the Messiah, and yet they lied on him and had him executed. So the Jews didn't even care that he was supposedly the Messiah. That's the part people don't understand. Read the book and see what they actually did instead of just sitting around listening to the cute little Sunday school sermons. You thought all got washed away. No, everything didn't get washed away with Noah's flood. Because again, they've been digging, archaeologists have been digging on this planet for at least 300 years, constantly, just about. There's been an archaeological dig happening somewhere on this planet, and most of it is in those eastern parts and stuff, because they've been looking for a lot of these texts and stuff and cities and all the rest of that. But they've come across several. They found the library at Nineveh. They found the Nag Hammadi library. Christians only know about the Dead Sea Scrolls, but they found a lot more than just the Dead Sea Scrolls when they was out there digging. They at this point have cataloged probably over a quarter of. I actually heard somebody say they estimated they've cataloged about 250,000 ancient texts that have come out of archaeological sites at this point. Now, obviously, all of them wouldn't be considered sacred texts. Some of them were political stuff, court documents, grocery lists, personal letters, what have you. But they have to go through them and translate them and then scan them into a digital archive so that they can be gone through. But there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of ancient texts that are way older than the scriptures. And when they start examining them, they start realizing that the reason Genesis, Exodus, and all of that seems so abbreviated is because these books, even as old as these were taken from older stories and passed down through oral traditions and stuff and written down. And there's some truth in them because there are a lot of them are telling the Anunnaki stories, but they're not what we've been told that they are. Well, if y'all are both fellow Orthodox and you got such a problem with it, like I said, just bounce yourself up off the channel. That's all. I'm not gonna change my mind because again, Orthodox or not, Christianity as a whole, the entire premise of Christianity, yes, Yeshua is supposedly important in Christianity, but they're still pointing people to worshiping Jehovah. And Yeshua wasn't pointing nobody to worshiping Jehovah. Yeshua said that the Jews were worshiping the devil. He called him a liar, a manslayer, and called him the devil. He told them, I don't want to debate with you. I'm not here to argue with nobody. I'm here to teach. I'm not here to debate or argue. I'm here to teach. And you're trying to interrupt that, and I'm not going to have it. That's the point. I'm not happy to debate with you because there's no debate as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, I've been reading this mess for 50 years. I don't want to continue to discuss it with somebody that just wants to keep talking in circles to be talking. I'm teaching something that Yeshua put on my heart to teach. And the fact that you don't take it seriously don't bother me at all because I know who my calling, where my calling is and where it came from. That part. You don't have no respect for what I've learned and what I've researched, but that's your business. I have enough self respect not to continue to argue with you or debate, whatever you want to call it. I'm not finna do that. And just know you just got timed out by a jury of your peers. It wasn't me. I didn't touch the phone. They don't want to hear it either. They want to learn. We were supposed to be reading the scriptures, not debating with you. Uh, Sadman Shomik Islam. I was reading in Genesis. It is manipulative, but people who are still brainwashed in this religiosity can't see it. Aswap Awas. That's why I it's been put upon me to go through this and read through and teach. Hey, Shawanda Sheree, welcome, welcome. You say you finished your grocery shopping? Awesome. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm not. I did grocery shopping today, but it wasn't for a Thanksgiving dinner. It was just because I know the store's gonna be closed tomorrow, so I had to get it done. So my roommate will have some food for tomorrow. Yeah, you say you never understand worship in the Bible is manipulative and it doesn't add up. For thinking people, it doesn't. I had questions from the time I was a child, and like I said, I was trying to be good and devout. I was so afraid of displeasing Jehovah, and because I grew up in a religion that we talking about fearing God. Oh, if you didn't get it right, that was your everlasting cutting off. Even if they didn't believe in hell, they believed if you didn't get it right, that was it for you. Um, so I really, really wanted to get it right, but none of what I was seeing in practice, reading in the script, it did, like you said, it just didn't add up. Yeshua said God is love, and none of that I was reading in the Bible looked like a loving God to me. And like I said, it looked like a very deceptive, misogynistic, violent, bloodthirsty, um, vengeful, inconsistent God was what I was reading about. You said even dogs get scraps. A woman had to beg Yeshua for her child to be healed because she was a different race at the time. And like I said, he didn't look at her like that. But yeah, some of those people, and even you look at the woman with the issue of blood, the woman that had the different husbands or whatever, all of them, they was afraid to approach him. And he was very different. He wasn't judging them like the rest of the Jews would judge them, but they were cautious about even approaching him because most of the Jews were super judgmental. And under Jewish law, any woman with any flow of blood whatsoever was supposed to be sequestered out at the edge of the camp somewhere. She couldn't be amongst people, period. So if this lady had some kind of a gynecological problem going on where she was spending, she's having a continuous flow of blood, she would have just stayed out there by herself till she died. And they wouldn't have cared. I sad man, no disrespect to you personally, but I'm not trying to hear what the Quran said. When just found out that Muhammad married Aisha when she was 6 years old, I will never look into the Quran because that's an evil, wicked man. And Sharia law still got grown behind men marrying children to this day. I will never look into what the Quran or Islam has to say because I'm not interested in it. Because ultimately, I was waterboarded with Yahweh nonsense. And El is another iteration of Yahweh. So whether you call him Allah, El, Yahweh, Jehovah, Enlil, whatever you choose to call him, he is still wicked. He is the devil. And the reason I know Islam ain't the truth is because Muslims don't have no peace. Yeshua said God is love. Strapping devices to yourself and unaliving yourself in the name of Allah to take care of political issues, that's not loving. Ruining a young child's life by turning around and marrying her, forcing her to marry when she's 6, 8, 10, 12 years old, and then putting her life in danger while a grown behind man literally splits her in half to impregnate a child. That's not loving. There's no need for me to examine that. So sorry. Again, no personal disrespect to you, but intelligent people will not follow that kind of foolishness. Christianity is bad enough. Judaism and Islam are absolutely reprehensibly disgusting. All of them are bad because they're following Islam, but that whole child marriage thing, that had me on a whole other level of pissed off to the highest of passivity. I can't, I know, no. I'm an American woman. I got way too much sass and way too much will to ever cow down to that kind of foolishness. So there's no need for me to research that because I can't get past that part. I don't care what the heck else they got to say in that Quran. The fact that that religion will allow that, I can't have no parts of it. I am Queen Mary. I'm glad that humanity is awakening too. And that's one of the reasons I continue to speak, even though these trolls come in here and do this kind of stuff, because I'm here for the people that have questions. I'm here for the people that know that there's got to be something else. I'm here for those that are waking up in the matrix and want to know what the heck do we do now? Because when people have been programmed for religion and you take religion away from them, you still have to give them something to look forward to. So it's not, atheism is not the answer, but helping them find their way to actual spirituality is a better feeling bridge than just leaving them out there on the edge, just like, oh my God, my religion, everything I taught, this program, because that's some hardwired programming from birth through seven. Most of us are laid down with that. It's hard to break that programming, and I'm here to help with that. Hey, Thandi, welcome, welcome, Thandi Lazalo, welcome. Jaquavius, yeah, to this day they still digging up stuff, but these people decided that the only thing we need to know about is what they chose to tell us that we could have after they finished culling through. Because initially it was about 200 volumes, and some people say as many as 700 that they started looking at when they culled it down to these 66. And even within the 66, they took some liberties and took some stuff out and started redacting some stuff and all the rest of that stuff. You said Joseph was around 90 when he married Mary, who was about 12 to 13, 14, but that's debated. Other sources suggest. I don't know what you're saying. Well, even you said his disciples urged him to send her away because she was a Canaanite, but he refused. He saw her as great faith and healed her daughter. Yeah. Well, his again, RQB, I told you, according to the Gospel of Judas, he said that he understood that the vast majority of his disciples completely missed the entire point of his message. His entire ministry was wasted on him. He was running around for 3 years trying to witness to these people and tell them something different. And not only did they not hear him, they still hated him, even though they suspected he was the Hamashiach. They still turned around and lied on him and had him executed. They delivered him up to the Romans. They didn't want to get their hands dirty just in case he really was the Hamashiach, but they wanted him dead so bad that they lied on him and got him arrested by the Romans and insisted that he be executed. You said you experienced such horror as a child. You hear your thoughts. Yeah. Oh, sister, I'm pretty sure you probably got some stories you could tell. That's why I say I know I'm calling in soul family and that could, like I said, these ones that want to promote this mess, we ain't doing that. And if Joseph was 90, well, again, there's a lot of debate about Joseph and Mary because Christianity try to tell you about this virgin birth thing. Mary was not a virgin. Yeshua wasn't. She had other children, and Yeshua was not her oldest. It said that she had somewhere between either 9 or 11 kids, and he was somewhere in the middle. She was a high esteemed mystic, and according to now, this isn't older information. This is some channeled works that came out, but according to what they were saying, um, when it was time when they knew that the Christ child was going to come, there were several pairs or couples that chose a season of celibacy until Spirit made it clear which vessel was going to be used to bear the child. And when Mary was chosen, everybody celebrated it and all the rest of that. But she and her husband had been celibate to make sure that it wasn't her baby, that it was going to be the Elohim's baby and not his physical baby. But they ain't gonna tell you all of that. Like I said, the scientific part of it doesn't mesh very well with the whole the Star of Bethlehem story and the virgin birth and all that other kind of stuff that they not gonna, instead of telling you it was an artificial insemination of Lord Enki's baby, because he was the one that did that sort of genetic experimentation and stuff, and he had done it several other times, and he had physically made it with some humans as well. All of his children didn't come out of a laboratory. He figured out that his um DNA, his essence was compatible with humans, because original Adamu and Adapa's DNA was his. So he could mate with humans without creating Nephilim, because they were of his line. And he did. Okay. Hey, Miss Natasha Romanoff, welcome. Where is that account? Because I would like to look that up and read it. I'm not familiar with that particular story. I read the Bible through and through, but I'm not familiar with that. It's been a long while since I read that one. Awas. So what chapter? So we can look at it. Yeah. You talking about nobody lived until 90 in that time, Jaquavius? All of them lived. Did you not read in the scriptures where Methuselah lived to be 969 years old? And even with the biblical Adam, they claim that he was like 500 and something years old, but the Anunnaki text say something different. Adapa was born in the 83rd Shar, and he passed away in the 108th Shar, meaning he was 14 Shars old. A Shar is 3,600 years, so Adapa lived almost 50,000 years, because again, he was a seriously Anunnaki hybrid. He was a hybrid bred back with Anunnaki. Well, his mother was a Anunnaki hybrid, and then he was basically three-quarters Anunnaki over time. Jaquavius, baby, when it comes down to spirituality, please don't believe everything you read in front page Google. The AI answer will give you the church boiled down religiosity. It's not going to give you what Bible scholars and theologists and theosophists and archaeologists and all of them have come up with. There's quite a few things that I've tried to look up in Google, and I had to do other further digging, because front page Google answer gave me something that I knew for a fact was not the truth, especially when it comes down to this particular aspect of spirituality. These are newer conversations. They've been being had in certain circles for almost 100 years, or it ain't no almost, for 100 years on this planet now. But because the church and the government don't want to acknowledge it, it doesn't get into mainstream databases that easily. So you can't necessarily trust Google on this one. But to say that they didn't live to 90 back then, when the scriptures talk about them living for hundreds of years, we just read, I think Abraham lived to be about 270 years old. He died, and Sarah died at 127. Terah lived, yeah, anyway. Yeah, they live way beyond the Bible, 90 in the Bible. He said he asked Google what the birthstone of Taurus was, and it said sapphire. Yeah, that part. Anyway, let's get back in here, because like I said, we were At the sacrifice of Isaac in the 22nd chapter of Genesis. Let me see. And this is the part that I've mentioned before, the mental torture that Yahweh is willing to do to his so-called people for them to prove their loyalty to him. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. He said, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took two of his young men with him and his son Isaac, and he cut the wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place which God had told him. On the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. Then Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So they went, both of them together. And Isaac said to his father Abraham, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. He said, behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? Abraham said, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. So they both of them went together. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there and laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here I am. He said, do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for I now know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of that place, the Lord will provide. As it is said to this day, on the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. Again, what? So for 3 days, and he trekked, he had to walk. Yahweh said it. Abraham ain't buck not near inch. And this is the same child that it took him 25 years for Yahweh to keep his promise. Yahweh still ain't made his name a mighty people. Yahweh didn't provide for him during the famine. Yahweh didn't provide for him with Abimelech. He had to go do this con thing, all the rest of this stuff. I am with Yeshua, but Yeshua wasn't with the Jews. Yeshua was a Jew by birth, Jerquavius, but he was not a Yahweh worshiping Jews. The Nazarites, Yahweh said Yeshua was from Nazarene. He taught him Jesus the Nazarene. Nazarites didn't worship Yahweh. And he was of the bloodline of the Edomites. He was a descendant of Esau. And they didn't rock with Yahweh either. They so didn't rock with Yahweh that they moved away from the rest of the Yahweh worshiping Jews into the land of Edom, up in the mountains. And some say that Yeshua was an Essene, a mystic, and they for sure didn't rock with Yahweh. They were Jews, but all Jews didn't worship Yahweh. That's my point. Even the Yahweh worshiping Jews didn't always worship Yahweh. In Jeremiah, they went back to worshiping Asherah. He treated them so bad till they had gone back to worshiping Asherah, like they had been before. Even Abraham wasn't born worshiping Yahweh. He didn't start worshiping Yahweh till he got to be 75 years old. His father had been a temple scribe in the temple of Nanar Sin. Nanar was Yahweh's son, and he merged with the moon god in the Akkadian. he was known as Sin, the moon god, but in the Babylonian, he was known as Nanar. But he was the physical son of Enlil and actually, he was the son of Enlil by his half sister Ninmah. Hey, Lord Kelvin, welcome. Hey, Mick Don, welcome. Reigning Supreme, you say you're logging off. Welcome. Okay, have a good evening. Look up the young elder. I've seen some of his stuff. I just hadn't sat down and took time to watch some of it, but I have seen him on YouTube about the Anunnaki. You said you think he changed his mind about unaliving him because he was really his son? Maybe, maybe. But my point is whether, yeah, because again, like I said, Abraham, the son, Isaac was Sarah's son by Yahweh. But Yahweh don't care. In the Greek pantheon, he ate one of his children. He don't care nothing about eating his children, especially a half breed human. But my point was whether he was physically Yahweh's son or not, to put 100-year-old man, and at this point, Isaac is up some age, so he was probably about 120-year-old man at this point, to make him walk 3 days up a mountain, knowing in his head, according to what you told him, that when he get to the top of this mountain, he has to slaughter his son to prove his worthiness. Abraham wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Why in the hell would you be willing to kill the only thing that Yahweh ever kept his word on you about was giving you that son, and then he turned around and tell you to go slaughter the son, and you don't question it at all. You just jump up the next morning and take a 3-day hike up the side of a mountain as a 120-something-year-old man. And what kind of God would put him under that kind of mental and physical stress? But you have a beautiful evening, Reigning Supreme. Yeah. Hey, Paul Chibi, welcome. Okay, I love Yeshua. I don't love Jesus means hail Zeus, and that's going right back to Yahweh. So you can love Jesus all you want. I love Yeshua, and Yeshua said that the Elohim that he was his father is not the Elohim that the Jews were worshiping, and that's why I teach what I teach. You would like to speak with me? Could I answer this request, please? What request, Tim Wright? You got a question? Put it here in the chat. No, it's not a matter of whatever his name, sweetheart. That's what you don't understand. So don't baby me, sweetie pie. It does matter the name, because while you don't understand, when we were told to pray in Jesus' name, that means hail Zeus, which wraps right back to Yahweh. It is a subterfuge. And ending prayers with Amen is a binding spell to Amun Ra. Marduk became Amun Ra. He was on a power trip as well. Marduk and Enlil was two of the nastiest Elohim the planet saw. They were so vile to they also the only two Elohim that were actually exiled by their own people. The other Elohim exiled them. They exiled Enki for San Sud, and Marduk was he was exiled twice for his reason. One of them was for destroying Schumer with the weapons of terror. Go back and read the history. So if you choose to want to continue loving Amun Ra and Enki and all of them, do you, boo? But we don't do that here. I actually love Yeshua. Okay. Exactly. And that's the ironic part. People are into Christianity supposedly because of Yeshua, and they have no idea that the religion that they're into ain't got little or nothing to do with Yeshua. It is a subterfuge to keep them steeped in Yahweh worship. And like I said, I'm going to remember to put that to link that Billy Carson video to this one, because again, I already knew that information, but I didn't realize I had never seen that particular interview with Lori Harvey and him. But I thought it was fascinating. Yeah. But yeah, that and again, when we hear the story of the sacrifice of Isaac in church, they turn around. You said it was good from what you saw. It is. It's a really good video. Um, I just I love finding those kind of confirmations. Like I said, even when Paul Wallace, the way he was confirming things for me, it's not like I developed my belief systems based on what Billy Carson or Paul Wallace said. I was led to certain things in meditation and then did some research and found some things and formulated some ideas and all of that. And then got the confirmations by being led to the Paul Wallace and the Mauro Bolinos and the Myth Vision and the all the rest of them. And for Spirit has worked it out for me that way. I receive the answer clairaudiently first and do my own research, formulate my own ideas or whatever from based on what Yeshua is showing me in the written information or the other stuff, and then I'm led to a confirmation. You said it's a great compliment when someone you respect says that. Yes, yes. And girl, I will always, that day that Paul Wallace actually, like I said, watched the video and said that I was right on track and that I was doing good work and keeping it up and all of that. My little teeny tiny channel, he's sitting up with over 1 million subscribers and wrote all of these books and traveled the world teaching this stuff and all the rest of that. And the fact that he took the time to watch my video and let me know that I was on the right track, that was huge for me. That was very huge for me. No, sir, I'm not a Hebrew Israelite. I have very little respect for the Hebrew Israelites. I really do. The way they hoop and yell and scream at people standing on the edge of the road, they what they actually know about the Bible, you could put in a thimble. They good at yelling. Half of them can't even half read the way I've heard them out there hooping and screaming at people on the side of the road. That's not a way to teach anybody anything. Trying to engage people in verbal combat over something that they don't even understand. They understand on a very elementary level, because if they was Hebrew Israelites, they would never be standing up reading out the Christian Bible, because only the first 5 books of the Bible do the Israelites have anything in common with. The rest of this goes into Christianity, and the Israelites ain't got no business trying to verify their religion by the Christian Bible. Let me see. Hold on. Tim Wright. Let me read your next question here. Hold on. The Old Testament, everything leads and points to Yeshua. Yeah. You say, oh, yeah, I'm going to go back and probably watch it again. Here's the thing: if there's a God itself, as we all know it, if these individuals, however you choose to describe them, have the abilities, let's be clear, they have an edge on us somewhat. Of course. Of course, they have an edge on us, Tim Wright. Do you think you're greater than your father? I mean, you might have an edge on him if he's no longer alive. No disrespect intended, but I'm saying the creation is not greater than the created. So in that aspect, yes, they have an edge on us. They come from a planet whose technology is quite literally 1 million years ahead of us, and they had enough technology under their belt that 400,000 years ago they came here searching for gold to save their own atmosphere on their planet. And in order to mine said gold, they stayed here and attempted it for themselves for over 100,000 years. But it got to be a bit more workload in that African heat than what they wanted to do. And they fashioned a worker from a hominid that they found here. But in order to do that, they wound up having to fuse their DNA with the hominid's DNA in order to make that being intelligent enough to be a viable worker. And then to make that being fertile, they had to give them even more Anunnaki DNA, which really made us sentient at that point. And that's when the shit show got started. Because Yahweh didn't like that at all, at all. Enki, on the other hand, is the one who actually did it, and he sees us as his children. We are his progeny. And why is it that me and you are true believers, but we do not have these abilities to do? No, you have no superpowers whatsoever other than faith. Tim, right, because again, our DNA, there is a portion of our DNA that has been dormant for a long time. It's not really dormant anymore. We're evolving on the fly if you actually are following like med science and stuff like that right now. But I wouldn't say we don't have any superpowers. Don't you think telepathy and clairaudience and clairvoyance and stuff like that are powerful? Because they said that the Atlanteans were telepathic. Now we got to practice it. It's got to be strengthened. But here's and one of the things I want you to understand, Tim, right, is a large part of what we've been dumbed down with is to keep our powers from developing. Why do you think they insisted on putting fluoride in the water in the US? Why do you think we start out on such a heavily dosed diet of sugar right from the hospital? Baby formula is like 43% sugar. Why do you think they laced us up with so many chemicals in our food, in our water, on our clothes, in our medicines, in our everything? They are genuinely not only making a buck off of us out of our velvet rope slavery that they have us ensconced in, but they're also doing their very level best to prevent the mass awakening. And I've been telepathic since I was a child. I just didn't know what it was called at that time. But I used to be able to think of any of my relatives. It didn't matter if I hadn't talked to them for 6 months, if it could be a cousin living 1,000 miles away. And I ain't heard from them for 6 months. If I really concentrated on them really hard, I could make anybody in my family call me within 24 to 48 hours tops. And I've done exercises where I had people that I hadn't talked to in several years look me up and they happened to be in the state, but they were 400 or 500 miles away. And I pushed like two or three 2 word phrases to them to see whether they would get a telepathic hit off me or not, or they would get a, yeah, I pushed the thoughts to them. And even at that, they still hit on 3 of the 6 words. So we are telepathy is a real thing. When me and my boyfriend found out we was telepathic for real, we started practicing it like every day. You said Yeshua did holler even with the 5,000. Yeah, he manifested that. Hey Felix, young suave, welcome. Sour cast, none of your damn business. How about that? And I don't care which one you prefer either. Because in order for you to ask me some mess like that, you probably prefer them yourself. But hey Lilac Gold, welcome. Yep, if you think you don't have power, then you won't for sure. And thank you, Brittany, because we don't need to know about nobody's. Yeah, we're not here discussing that. We done already had our body parts discussion for the evening, but it wasn't nothing to do with a size issue. That part. Yep. All right, so let's get back over to, I'm guessing, I'm assuming that was the end of Tim Wright's questions. He said he wanted to have a question. Hey, Hari Renatas, or Hari Krishna Das, 47. Yeah. You said, wait a minute. Hold on. There was something I saw I wanted to comment on here. Oh, Jarquavius, you talking about they setting black folk back? It ain't just black folk. I really, 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 really need at this point, because I do comment on stuff when people come at me with nonsense. I'll give it back in the way they give it sometimes, but for real, y'all, I really need y'all to expand your minds and understand that the issue that we have on this planet today is not an issue of race. That is a construct that they gave to lesser intelligent people to keep them stuck. Do you not realize that the really, really wealthy people on this planet don't give a damn about race? They about money. Race was given to poor folks to keep us fighting over each other. At this point in the game, they treat poor white folks just as bad as they treat poor black folks. So it's not that they're keeping the black people down, they're keeping all people down at this point. They want to prevent mass awakening. And I don't care how lesser melanated they are. Our lesser melanated brethren and sisters are still our brethren and sisters. There is no point in having a racial discussion. They do things in America to keep the race issue going, but that's a distraction. It's a subterfuge. And if we allow ourselves to step out of that, we'd realize it's more about economic slavery at this point than it is racial slavery. Because there's very few places in the United States that I can't take my black face in if my green money is right. Think about that. There's over 2,000 black millionaires in this country. So black people in America got to stop hollering about black oppression. If 2,000 of us could figure out how to become millionaires, then some more of us could too. That's not a viable argument anymore. Exactly. We're just different shades. The powers that be want to keep people fighting about race. If people actually understood, and I found this out when I went to college, race didn't even become a real thing until the second wave of slavery in the Americas, because that was the so-called justification for continuing the idea of keeping us down. Because at first they tried to say that black people were animals when they first brought the first wave of slaves in. But then they turned around. People's like, well, you can't say the animals now because you done bred with them and mixed with them, because Willie Lynch told them to go and mix the bloodlines and all of that. And they were seeing such obvious excellence coming out, architecture and design and music and all of these other things coming out of these slave classes. Then they had to come up with something else. So they created the idea of racial inferiority. But you can't even blame the underdog for trying to get the upper hand, because the idea of minority, the word minority only means less than in number. But the psychological wordplay that's been happening on this planet is white folks in America primarily. I mean, the Europeans went along with it for a while too, the colonizers, when they was doing that thing. But they turned around but the idea of minority, that's a for sure US thing. It just spread to other places, but they sold us on the idea that minority means less desirable because of racial features. It only means less than in number. It ain't got nothing to do with the color of skin, but they start referring to yellow and brown and red peoples as minorities based on skin color. Now, if you take the real meaning of the word minority being less than in number, white people are in the majority in the United States, but if you look at the planet overall, who's the minority? When you look at melanated races, Asians, Latinos, autochthonous, Arabic, and African descendants, and then there's white people. Who's the minority? That part. So we really got to get over that, y'all. We really got to. They just tell you that stuff to keep you at each other's throats. It's about the green at this point in time. And for us spiritually, it shouldn't even be about none of that, because at this point in time, it's about whose consciousness can expand, who's awakening and allowing their consciousness to expand. All beautiful children, mixed kids are so beautiful. McDon, most of them, don't say all of them, because hunty, I thought all mixed kids were beautiful too. I've seen some that I'm like, was y'all first cousins on the other side of the blanket or something? Because them kids, but their mama and daddy was kind of jacked up too. But I have seen some kids that was like, oh, they so precious. But that was honestly, like you said, it was only like one or two isolated incidents. 99% of mixed kids that I've ever seen were extremely beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I know my grandbabies are. Mm-mm-mm. Well, actually, I got one. I got one who is racially mixed and one who is ethnically mixed, but they both beautiful. Kendall Gilliam, I don't know what kind of help you need. I'll do the best I can, but I'm not pulling tarot. I'm not a fortune teller or any of that. But if you need some spiritual advice or help that we can legally give, put your issue in the chat. We've wound down. I will probably continue in later on. We didn't get up to 22. We went from Genesis 17 to 22. I'm probably gonna leave off of that for tonight and handle. I have no idea what you're talking about, and neither do you. Because guess what? Here is 10 o'clock at night. If you ain't cleaned them already, that's on your business. And I don't know how anybody online gonna help you clean anything. So you might want to get offline, stop doom scrolling and wasting your time. Again, you might want to stop doom scrolling and get off the phone and go head on and get busy. I would ain't no way in hell I sign up to clean no 20 buckets of chitlins. I barely want to clean one, and I don't do the red bucket. I ain't did no chitlins in forever. That's a labor of love for real. My oldest daughter likes them. The other three don't. I will eat them because I grew up. I'm old school. My granny. I wouldn't eat everybody's, but I would eat my mother's and my grandma's. But I get the super clean ones, and I still go through them and clean them. But I won't do no more than about two of them at a time. But yeah, you on your own with the 20 buckets of chitlins. I ain't ate pork and for you ain't missed nothing, Brittany, for real. Um, yeah, you got the oh God, your house is gonna stink. I hope you're doing it outside. Ugh. Do you cook them with potato in them? If you do, if you put a little bit of potato, you put a potato and a boiled egg in the pot with them, it'll cut down a lot of that smell. It'll smell closer to steak cooking than the chitlins. But if you don't, yeah, you're gonna be in for a stinky ride. But yeah, ain't no way under the sun I would clean no 20 buckets of chitlin. I don't love none of them people that much. And you can tell them I said so. Shoot. Nope, nope, nope. Well, you on your own, because again, who you think gonna come? Ain't nobody gonna be able to teleport through the to the phone to help you do that. So you might want to. Don't I wouldn't touch my phone if I'm cleaning them nasty behind things. But you might want to get up off the phone, put you on a nice long movie or track or something that keep you going, so you ain't got to be paying too much attention. I don't need you. I don't need no oxtails or no chitlins, but thank you though. I honestly, I know how to make all of that stuff because I would grow up in the South. I know how to make soul food. I don't eat it no more though. I really don't. I ain't had. I think the last time I had fried chicken was about a year ago, and I didn't even make it then. It's a place up the road that's got like Gus's famous fried chicken. They do a really nice, spicy, old fashioned fried chicken, and I did. I went ahead and bought some, but I'm kind of giving in to my Asian roots at this point in the game. Most of what I cook for myself comes out of a wok these days, and I do a lot of really lighter stuff, salmon, and I will do like chicken breasts or chicken thighs, like I said, stir fried in a wok or beans and rice or things like that. I really, really, really just don't do a whole lot of deep fried dipped in gravy, heavy soul foody kind of stuff, and I don't buy pork anymore and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't need it, but appreciate it. Yep, yep. So anybody else got any questions they want to put in the chat, or are we about to sign off for the night so you can go on and get your whatever it is you got to get doing? Because whether you celebrate the holiday or not, you got the day off most likely tomorrow if you're in the U.S. Um, when I ate them, back when I used to eat them, yes, I would do like 2 bags of the super clean chitlins and get a small thing of hog maws and put the maws in first. And then when they get cooked about halfway down, then put the chitlins in. I don't have a guru, Hare Krishna. I had a couple of mentors throughout time, and I still have like online mentors and stuff that I really like their teachings and stuff, but I do not have a guru. Nor am I trying to become anybody else's guru. I realize over time, if you keep doing what you're doing, people will follow you and they will guruize you to a degree. But yeah, I don't really have a guru. Oh well, child with 20 buckets of chitlins, they don't need none. They really don't. I still can't believe you let somebody. I can't even figure out where you even got 20 buckets of chitlins from. They are hard to come by in the store these days. Even stores that still carry them, they usually won't have more than 4 or 5 at a time. You must have ordered them ahead of time and had to go pick them up somewhere, or went straight to the slaughterhouse or something. But in any event, when I get off of here, I'm gonna make some vegan steak tips with broccoli and cauliflower and carrots. I'm gonna do a stir fry of that, and oh, okay. I'm gonna do a stir fry of that over rice for my roommate. Yeah, and that's what he's gonna have tomorrow. It's easy for me not to eat a whole lot of that kind of stuff now because, like I said, I live with a vegetarian. So, I mean, occasionally I still eat meat, so I do bring meat in the house. It's not that I don't, but yeah, I do eat fried cabbage. But I don't. Well, it depends on what you want to call fried. I don't put a lot of oil in my cabbage, but I cook it in the pan like that. I put the oil in there. Sometimes I do a little splash of oil. And since I don't cook with meat anymore, I usually use a combination of sesame oil and liquid smoke for seasoning and stuff, and then my other spices and all of that. But the sesame oil, I put a little regular oil in the pan and a little sesame oil. And with cabbage, I'll probably put a little bit of butter in there as well. But yeah, I put it in there and it's like start cooking it with no water. Yeah. So you made mac and cheese, Oreo cheesecake. Ooh. Damn, a diet cake. Girl, I wish you would hand me a diet cake. I'd be done flip that cake up in your face. Ain't no way. Unless it's an actual bona fide diabetic in the house, we ain't doing no diet cake. If I'm gonna eat a cake, then make it be a good one. We're not finna do all of that, Miss Brittany. But good on you for doing that, but no. Oh, dirt cake. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go. I could do a dirt cake or oh, ooh, you know, I ain't had it forever that I kind of sort of want, even though I haven't had one in so long. I know it's gonna probably make me sick. A dump cake. Oh, I used to love me some dump cake. It'd be so good. It is super sweet though, but it is so good. Or now that's the one thing I know my kids miss. My daughter asked me to make a cookbook for her because I know they miss my cooking. But think when I did do Thanksgiving, everybody had to have their own pie. Sweet potato, of course. Like I say, black folks really don't do pumpkin pie too tough. Not many of us, but it was sweet potato pie. And I would do everybody who had their own pie. I would typically do a banana pudding as well. And we do not do no box pudding mess. No, we boil the custard and well, not boil it, but steam. what do you call it? Scald. Yeah, I couldn't think of the word. Scald the custard and make it old school style. Um, but yeah. But they grew up. My daughter cooks so well till shoot, I'd be at her house, be chilling out at this point because the last Thanksgiving I did was at her house and she spatchcocked a turkey and it was so good. Yeah. But y'all, it is 10:09 and we done devolved into discussing food. So I'm getting ready to get off of here. I hope everybody has a wonderful time. I'm not sure yet whether I'm gonna do a live stream tomorrow on probably on TikTok. I might do a little bit of live stream. Ain't nobody gonna probably be on either one of them. But I was considering doing some tarot on one or other of the channels. I might hit up the WhatsApp group and see if anybody got any suggestions for which I should try. But other than that, have a fabulous day tomorrow. Those that are cooking heavy family meals, get your stretchy pants on and have a good time. Whoever's watching parades and football games, I hope you got all of that together. I hope you don't lose no money on no crazy bets or nothing that. Peace and blessings to you, soul family. If you can't be good, you do know the rest. And I will see you all later. I love you. Namaste. And y'all have a great night too.